Oh,
Please don't ask that question.
You guys done?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to hop into it. Welcome to Unlikely Disciples, the Catholic podcast for young adults, made by young adults. Today, joining the pod, we have Jack, Jason, Ryan, Louisa, and myself, Matthew.
That's my name.
Yeah, that is.
That's my name. Hey,
How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Wow. Great. All right, I have a little bit of a icebreaker question. You ready? You ready for this?
So ready.
No.
If you,
Wait, now I'm ready.
thank you. If you were a kitchen appliance, what would you be and why? And you have to give an answer in less than 15 seconds.
Ooh, food processor, because it is the best kitchen appliance in the entire world. You can shred cheese with it. You can cut all of your vegetables with it. You can make natural peanut butter. It's great. Get yourself a food processor.
Why would you be a food processor, though? Are you saying you're the best?
Yes.
That's inherently flawed. All right, next person.
Yeah, all right.
Me. I'm the next person. A brass Turkish spice grinder. You know why? Because they're made out of brass, they're expensive, and they're really nice. And
Are you
if you treat them
expensive,
properly,
Jack?
they don't develop rust and sediment on their side. Like what my
AKA
dad
Jack's
did.
dad.
Yeah. Not shout out to my dad, because he did that to the spice grinder I got him.
Ryan, go ahead.
Okay, I would be a brand new dishwasher.
Oh.
Now, I'm interpreting the question a little bit different than you guys, because I'm going to go, I'm quiet.
Oh,
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
Food processors
I'd
are
be
loud.
a used dishwasher.
I would be just a good, solid chef's knife because I'm quite
Ooh.
sharp.
Hey, look at that.
All right, Jason, we left you last, so figure it
Well,
out.
I'm gonna hop on Ryan's bandwagon.
No,
No.
I'm gonna
no.
be a blender because
Okay.
I'm loud.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Good.
I'm going to be a blender because I'm loud.
I don't know
So
what
we
else.
have a blender, a food processor, a dishwasher, a brass Turkish spice grinder, and a knife.
And
Why
then-
Chef's knife.
A professional
well-
chef's knife.
Why
Yeah.
do you get all the adjectives?
Because, alright, you can get a spice grinder, and it's like, they can be like a trinky-dink little plastic, an aluminum plastic, or you get a brass Turkish spice grinder imported
Aluminum
from
plastic.
Turkey.
That if you take care of it, will not get
Well,
rust inside
yes. Yes.
it. Okay.
We're gonna have
Right.
an influx
Heavy
of
duty.
All right, so
grinders.
Shout
So-
out to brass Turkish spice grinders.
Not sponsored.
All right,
yeah,
all
it's
right,
still
all
not
right.
sponsored. So a little question here for everyone: what did we talk about during the last podcast?
Talked about why you should be Catholic when you're in college and in life, but also why college is a great time to grow in your faith.
Awesome, and that leads us to what are we talking about today, Ryan?
Today, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about how you can practice your faith in college.
Perfect.
Thank
so
That sounds like something that we'd talk about, yeah.
yeah, that sounds like it works. In the
All right,
flow of
well, let's
things.
get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, Jack. Well, if we can talk about it, then why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so I need to think before I speak.
Phone friend.
So yeah, I'm gonna forward this to somebody else before I get my gears warmed up. So I'm forwarding to Jason.
Ooh, I would say finding a community. I think that's really strong with anything that you do at a young adult age, because we're very much of what my friends do, I'm going to do. So finding the right set of people to surround yourself with really helps, whether that's going to Mass together, going to adoration together, going to confession together, or just any...
Not all at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not all at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Sorry, guys, but you won't be in the confessional with me anytime soon.
Yeah.
Be friends, know each other,
Yeah.
but you don't need to know each other.
Hi, there's
That
this
much,
thing
yeah.
called the seal of confession. Anyway.
What else you got building off of that? It's okay. I can
Mike,
take a little bit.
Or you.
I mean, well, okay, can I pick on you a little bit, Jason?
Always.
Okay, so we actually have a little anecdote for this. There was, like a couple of weeks ago, our Catholic organization at our college took a trip to a shrine in our state. And we went to this shrine, and we were all sitting getting ready for Mass, and we got there, like, unbelievably early. So we're sitting and we're praying and we're, reflecting, and somebody told us that there was confession going on. And so a couple of us stood up, including Ryan and myself, and we looked at Jason, and Jason was kind of not about it, right? Because confession is awkward and confession is uncomfortable. And
dislike a lot.
yeah, and there was this, funny little thing called positive peer pressure where we were really heavily encouraging Jason to go. And ultimately, I think that when you have friends that are going to push you to be better people, it makes it a lot easier because, and Jason, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably wouldn't have gone that day had we not really heavily encouraged you to do so.
You got it.
But, like, just in the weeks since that trip, you've constantly been mentioning, like, oh, I think it's a shame that people don't receive communion while in a state of grace, right? They don't go to confession. A lot of people don't take that teaching seriously when just a few months ago, that was something that you yourself were struggling with. And so when you're talking about community, like, it can completely shift your mindset. And if you don't have a good community, where is your mindset switching or shifting to,
It sounds like you are touching on accountability between members of a community, which,
Yeah.
I mean, like, accountability partners, that's huge. That's the reason why, like, Jason and I are living together now. Like, that's how we really met, but,
in
like,
the dorm.
Yeah.
In the dorm, yeah.
Like,
As roommates.
That's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Having those people who are going to push you, who are going to recognize when maybe you're not necessarily doing what you need to be doing, and they're willing to kind of step out and say something about it. And that's all out of care and love for the other individual. And I think that's something within a community that's really, I guess, really valued, but not necessarily practiced a ton, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
And with accountability, like with what Matthew just said, it helps your relationships grow a lot. Especially because, like, last year Matthew and I knew of each other, we didn't know each other. And then the same thing with Louisa and Ryan towards myself. And with them pushing me in my faith, sorry, Jack, but you're not as closest to me as everybody else.
Yeah, none
But-
taken.
Like, within those, in the past
Jack, you went to my high school anyway.
month and a half after Louisa and Ryan kindly pushed me to go to confession, our relationship is definitely growing, as well as Matthew and my relationship has grown since accountability. So having that community definitely grows yourself.
Yeah, I think we all can agree that we wouldn't be the people we are today if none of us knew each other.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe we wouldn't be here having this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, step one.
Yeah.
I also think, too, when you look at, like, the saints, a lot of saints, their family members or their friends or their role models were canonized kind of in groups, right? So Saint Therese of Lisieux, her parents were canonized, and a lot of saints had kind of like best buddies that would call them out in the middle of town and tell them all the things they were doing wrong to humble them, right? And there's all of these great stories of people being martyred and canonized in pairs or in groups. And I think when you look at the Catholic Church, it is very difficult to do this on your own because such a small number of people are called to be hermits or to live in cloistered life. The vast majority of people need this kind of safety net, if you will, of people. And I think you want to find people in your college life or in your outside of college life that are going to risk you being a little annoyed with them, to tell them in love, right? Like, don't be a jerk. To tell them in love, hey, I think that what you're doing is probably not helping you be the most healthy, or it's not helping you love God the most. Like, what's going on here? Having those people is super, super crucial. And that's something that Jack and I had, and I'm calling on Jack. I felt like he was a little left out, but Jack and I actually went to the same high school. That wasn't a joke. And we were very lucky because at our high school, it was a Catholic high school, we had a group of individuals who would do like the retreats for each grade level. And
You were on the retreat team?
I was not on the retreat team.
Yeah,
I just
I
hung out incessantly with the retreat team. And when you look at that group of people, that was a group of people that hung out with our school priest, and they were all, I mean, for the most part, like trying to be on the same page, and they were trying to grow and push each other and really invite God into their lives. And so that's something that the longer that you have it, I think the more comfortable you are with it, and the better you're able to utilize other people as kind of your community, right? Like, you're not using them for your own benefit. You're loving them and you're pushing them just as much as they're loving you and pushing you. So I think that's a huge part about being Catholic in college.
Good. We hit that nail on the head pretty hard.
What's another one, Jack?
Yeah. What is another one? I think another one that I think is important that a lot of people suck at, and we'll talk about that later, is prayer. And a lot of people are like, "Oh man, dude, my faith life sucks. I don't know why." And then like, "Are you praying? Are you going to mass?" And they go, "No." It's like, well, they really, prayer is a very important part of your prayer is an important part of your faith life for very obvious reasons. So I can guarantee you, if you're facing problems and you're not praying, then that's the root of the problem.
Yeah. I have a question for Jack.
Oh,
that.
yes, I love questions.
So, you brought up prayer. What have you been doing in your prayer life that you found has helped you?
So,
Ooh, good question.
That is an excellent question.
Also, great question for you, the listener.
Yes.
Think about it. And I'll answer it while you're thinking about it. So, this summer, I spent my summer at Camp Wojtyła. Camp Wojtyła is a Catholic outdoor youth adventure camp in the Colorado Rocky Mountains.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, but it could be. Shout out to the Powell family, and also Renato, who was my other boss.
Just giving shout outs.
Yeah. But where was I going with it? Anyway, so they really, being in the mountains and being in nature, there's like a beauty in the silence that they have in there. And when you're in that silence, when you're in nature, you're completely isolated from what the culture's telling you to do. And so when you're in that, in a cultural sense, in that isolation, that's where you hear, God's voice speaking, the loudest, and where you're able to best discern what His plan is for your life. So really, in my prayer life, what I do is I just take a step back. I look at my situation, and then I, enter into this silence. I just do a lot of reflection, and you can also do this with a spiritual reading that you have, or it can be, you got something on your mind and you wanna talk to God about it. So in that silence, that's where He speaks the most to me personally.
Yeah, I think with prayer kind of going along with you, you really have to take it on your own in the sense of growing through that and growing your prayer life. But if you are struggling with that, accountability or community is definitely something that is a good entry or doorway to start or grow, just because they have fresh ideas, or sometimes you just have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they can be difficult, and that community is definitely, going back to our first point, something, an asset of which you should take advantage of.
And as a side note, just like a really quick side note, one of the coolest parts about being Catholic is the universal body of Christ and the communion of saints. And so there are people that have gone before you and that have loved God and that have dedicated their entire life to loving God and others, and they are still very much alive. Weird. You can ask them for help with things, and many of them struggled with the same things that you do. So tap into that resource, why don't you? Because community doesn't just mean here on earth. We have this beautiful community, both living and entering into eternal life. And then another thing is I'm kind of competitive. And so,
just a tiny bit.
Just a little bit. So, something that has really, really helped me is really trying to make it a priority to go to confession frequently, because I find that when I'm in a state of grace, I challenge myself to stay in that state of grace as long as possible, and to live in that love, and to I walk out of confession and I'm like, I am not going to sin anymore, and I'm going to be great, and like everything's going to be great, and I'm going to love God, and I'm going to love others, and like I'm going to go dance in the hills because I just love God so much. That's very Franciscan of me.
1 hour later.
Yeah. But like,
I'm going to jump in quick, Louise.
Yeah.
Before you go any further, do you want to define for our listeners what state of grace is? Because I feel like
Ooh.
a lot of people, our generation, and the young adult age don't necessarily know what state of grace
Fair
is
point.
and what that means.
and also super critical to being Catholic in college. The state of grace, friends, is if you think of your soul like a cup of milk, right? And God's grace is the milk in the cup. When you're in a state of grace, you have a full cup of milk. When you commit venial sins, which we'll get into that some other time, but those are not as grave. They're still bad. Don't do them. You're pouring the milk out of your cup, but not all of the milk. When you commit mortal sins, which, FYI, for the good of the order, missing Mass is a mortal sin if you miss Sunday Mass. You have completely poured all of the grace out of your cup, so you are no longer in a state of grace. And that means that whatever you did put such a barrier between you accepting God's love, right? He always loves us, but we have turned our backs to that love by doing whatever we did. And so the state of grace is when you lose your state of grace or you exit this state of grace, you have to go to confession before you receive the Eucharist again, which obviously we believe that the Eucharist is super important. And so personally, I stay in the state of grace longer the more frequently that I go to confession. If I fall out of the state of grace and I wait beyond that week to go to confession, then it compounds, and then I'm like, what's the point? And I get hopeless, and I get lost, and I get bored, and I get complacent. And so I think that one of the keys to being Catholic in college is to really hold yourself accountable to, I want to receive those sacraments. I want to stay in God's grace. I don't want to turn my back on him. And being almost competitive with that and saying like, no, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to love God because he's my priority.
I agree with that. Agree with you very much with being in a state of grace and going to confession. I would say probably been a month since I've been to confession, and I'm starting to really feel the compliance and, well, I'm stuck in my faith life. It is what it is. I'm not going to grow anymore. So I think really going and taking that leap of faith, and going to confession really helps you grow, but as well as be the best Catholic that you can be. I was going to say something else that you brought up, but I don't remember. Oh, going to Mass. I think that is another it is a really big thing about being Catholic, but being Catholic in college is going to Mass. There's a lot of people our age that are like, I don't need to go to Mass. It is what it is. I don't have time to go for that. But definitely go to Mass because it is a state of grace. Or not state of grace. What's the word I'm looking for?
It is a sin to not go.
Yes, it's a
Is
sin
that what
not to
you're
go.
saying?
Thank you. So definitely go there. But going to Mass, be part of Mass, know why you are there.
That'll be a later episode.
Yeah, that is a deep topic.
Yeah.
But just because I'm a stickler, dress up for Mass.
That's something, just with your faith life, too, is like when you treat your faith like it's something on the side and that it's just kind of whatever and it's something that you do, you're going to notice that you start to fall away from it and that you don't really care and you're complacent and all those things. But, when you do dress up for Mass, when you do make it a regular habit, when you do treat it like this incredibly special, precious part of your life, you'll notice that you enjoy living that way a lot more. And when you enjoy it, you're definitely more apt to do it. So yeah, dress up for Mass. It's a very important thing.
Question. What happened to Sunday Best?
Right here.
Yeah, no.
Because I remember having conversations with my parents and some of their friends, and they always said like they had one pair of church clothes, and that was because that was their Sunday best. But now you see people either just don't dress up, or people have a full wardrobe of good clothes, which is awesome. But what happened to Sunday best?
Yeah.
I think with dressing up for Mass, it brings back to that, like, relationship aspect that Louisa brought up in our last podcast, or last episode. If you treat going to Mass like a relationship, or Jesus Christ is having a relationship, you would dress up to go on a date with somebody. You're going on a date with Jesus every Sunday, so dress up.
Can't wait for my date with Jesus.
I mean, he is the best man around.
I like that, yeah, because your faith isn't something on the side like Louisa was saying, but it should be the center point of your life.
Yeah. So before we kind of get too far away from this here, I do want to bring up something that Jack said when we were kind of bouncing around this topic of how we stay Catholic in college. You had mentioned the idea of, well, you mentioned prayer, first of all, but then you had mentioned the idea of, like, making your life a prayer in the ordinary, and your duties, and you remaining obedient to the responsibilities that you have, and kind of the idea of, like, you're called to be a saint, but you can't say, like, I'll be holy later on in life.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah.
A lot of people, I even do this, I do this all the time, and then I catch myself, but oftentimes people think to themselves, oh, once I do this, or, once I go to confession, then I'll be holy. Once I understand this concept, then I'll be holy.
New Year's resolution.
Yeah, exactly. But really, you're called to be holy right now, and it's not going to happen as soon as you understand one concept or as soon as you do one thing, because you know why? After you go to confession, you're probably going to sin. And then after you understand this concept, there's going to be questions that come up, like a million different questions that sprout up once you understand that concept. So our faith isn't something that's passive or something that, like, you get to a certain level and then you can take a break and stop there. But it's like this active, dynamic lifestyle. Oh, what was the quote? Who's the guy who said the quote?
I have a Bible verse.
No, it was somebody else told me, but it's like it went along the lines of
St. Augustine.
Yes, your relationship with Christ is the ultimate adventure.
Yep.
Yeah.
St. Augustine of Hippo.
Mm-hmm. Pray for us. So he actually sponsored this podcast.
He did. He wanted you to say that. #Communion of Saints.
So just remembering that your faith life isn't something that's passive or something that's stagnant, but it's active, it's dynamic, and it's active.
Yeah.
A Bible verse that I was going to say that kind of relates to that.
Ryan, the scripture scholar over there.
No, not a scholar.
Close.
But it's 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 16 to 18. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing. In all circumstances, give thanks, for this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus.
Aww.
Nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good cap.
Pretty good cap.
Yeah.
Call it.
Yeah.
So,
Final stop.
No, we're gonna do our final stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so the final stop, throw it over to Louisa.
So kind of what we want to leave you with the idea that we have so many resources open to us. As Catholics, we have just this wealth of knowledge, this wealth of resources, so much grace open to us. But at the end of the day, after you learn about all these resources and all these keys to being Catholic in college, or keys to being Catholic in your everyday life, because none of these are college specific, you just have to do it. Ultimately, we can tell you all these things and it's all fine and dandy, but until you make the decision and just activate that and just do it, you're not going to be Catholic in college. The only way to be Catholic in college is to be Catholic in college, ultimately. I mean, like, we can say, oh yes, learn about this, and you could learn about it and still not be Catholic in college. We could say, find a good community. You could find a good community and still not be Catholic in college. And so, to our friendly audience, we just want to say, ultimately you can learn about all sorts of great things, and there are many great things out there. But consider this your kick in the butt to just do it.
Not sponsored by Nike.
Yeah. That could get us in trouble.
Yeah.
To be Catholic is to do Catholic.
Hey!
There's another one-liner.
Yeah, one-liner.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining us in this conversation of how to go about being Catholic in college. Very crucial to all of us and hopefully all of you. So remember, do good, avoid evil, and go to Mass. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.